Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Melissa Galasso, and today we're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to talk about the Governmental Accountability Office's, or GAO's, 2022 to 2027 strategic plan. So starting in 2018, GAO established the Center for Strategic Foresight to identify emerging issues, challenges, and opportunities to help the GAO fulfill its mission to support U.S. Congress and the public in making the federal government more efficient, effective, and responsive. And so they have issued a strategic plan, which provides goals and objectives for helping them serve both Congress and the nation. Now, this was issued back in March of 2022. I've been waiting for an opportunity to come along where we didn't have something pressing to discuss. And this week we had a little bit of a lull in topics. And so I wanted to have the opportunity to share this with you. So GAO publishes a strategic plan every 4 years. And again, it's to help them work with lawmakers to oversee operations and address important issues. And so they go through, and their goal are to ensure, obviously, well-being and financial security for Americans. Their goal is to ensure Congress does what it's supposed to do and that we're taking our top risks seriously. Identify and address national security threats and challenges. Transform the federal government and maximize GAO's value, right? So their goal is to be a valuable organization to government. And they issued 2 documents that went along with their strategic plan. The first one was really interesting, which was the 12 trends, right? So it's a GAO, Trends Affecting Government and Society, and they identified 12 key trends and agency items that they anticipate will impact both domestic and global context. And so again, they use the Center for Strategic Foresight to figure out, well, what do I need to be prepared for? Right? Over the next 5 years, what is that going to entail? And so they are trying to ensure that they're thinking about it. So they look at what is the current trend. They look at some key facts and statistics. What are the drivers of uncertainty? And then what are the implications for this? And so the trends really do range. Obviously, global and domestic threats for national security, thinking about threats maybe from Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, as well as other global and domestic threats, right? That's one of the key trends that they're monitoring. Obviously, fiscal sustainability and debt. If no action is taken, they've identified that debt held by the public is projected to surpass 200% of GDP by 2048. So their role in ensuring financial sustainability and ensuring that our debt is manageable. They obviously, post-COVID, have an interest on preparing for catastrophic biological incidents. And there's a lot of fragmentation both within and across the federal government, as well as non-federal governments and the private sector, and make it hard to get to understand what capabilities are and how to coordinate. And so their goal is to think about how can we improve that coordination and make sure people are all working together towards a common goal. Obviously, one of the themes of the last few years has been racial and ethnic disparities. And so trying to ensure equality of access to and provision of services, making sure there's procedural fairness and equal treatment of individuals, and making sure everyone in American society is treated with an equal consideration. And so obviously a key point of focus. So they, again, are looking at the trend and then what are they going to do about it? Science, technology, and innovation, as you can probably imagine, we have been the leaders for decades. But now in the 21st century, there's more competition out there, right? So there's more companies and countries that are expanding, and the U.S. has lost significant capability, right? Manufacturing advanced technologies, innovation, biotechnology. A lot of those manufacturing items have we can't manufacture them here in the United States. And so what does that mean as we move forward? And then thinking about a more digital world, what are some security implications for that, right? So as we start buying more things online and we're doing more professional activities online, criminals are also saying, well, people are online. And so they're exploiting our technology. It's also creating technical and legal challenges, obviously focused on privacy, so illicit financial transactions, cryptocurrency, right? What do we need to be thinking about? In terms of additional trends, again, they identified 12. The next one was changes to how and where we work, right? So one of the impacts of COVID is people don't necessarily want to go back to the office. They've gotten used to working from home. They've kind of gotten into a pattern. They don't have to pay for gas. They don't have a commute. Things are easier to access. They can make their own food for lunch. They don't have to pay to go out to lunch. And so what is the impact of that from a technology perspective, from automation? As we look at this, more than half more than half are trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do about that? So what does that mean in terms of impact? And then obviously, as we look at automation, right, and changes in who we're hiring, right, so changes to how we work, not just where we work, technology and automation disrupt a lot of jobs, and some of the skills that we need to meet those new jobs. Some of the low wage workers are obviously in those types of employment that are decreasing significantly. So they will need different skills in order to be able to be employable. And so what does that entail, and who is responsible for upskilling our workers? You can't not talk about the global supply chain as we see tons of issues right now with baby food. Obviously, formula is a huge issue right now as we cannot seem to get it to the people who need it. And so when we think about these future, right, there's questions about national security issues when we have such a reliance overseas or an inability to get things to where they need to go. Online learning and technology and education. As a mom of a middle schooler who did endure some remote learning, it's not ideal in all situations, and almost 1/3, which is about 16 million public school students between the ages of kindergarten and 12th grade, lack adequate internet access and devices for online learning. So we are privileged in our household to be able to have what we need and access to. My kid could easily do online school. But again, 16 million people are not that lucky, do not have that luxury. And so what does that look like if we do need to incorporate more online learning, or we expand to incorporate more of that? Obviously, evolving health technologies. So when we think about some of the considerations related to making sure that we are moving forward with that health concept in mind. Sustainability, right? How do we do sustainable development, right? So integration of systems, thinking about more of a long-term perspective, not just the now, but what we need in the future. And, we have private companies going into space now. Historically, right, that was a governmental feature, right? So now we have this space environment where we have commercial opportunities. There are more active satellites that are being done. So over the last 5 years, satellites in orbit have tripled. And so some experts are worried about, right, what is that increase going to look like going to the future? How is the Federal Aviation Administration going to oversee this sort of commercial element? So those are all the things that they're watching and trying to figure out how these trends are going to impact Congress and the Americans going forward from a security issue, and what GAO can do to help support Congress in their mission. They also set up, obviously, goals as part of this, and they identified 4 goals. And then for each goal, they had strategic objectives. And then for each strategic objective, they have performance goals. So again, this is a very large document. We definitely recommend that you take a closer look. But again, the goals that they're setting address current and emerging challenges to the well-being and financial security of the American people, help Congress respond to the changing security and challenges of global interdependence, help transform the national government to address these challenges, and maximize the value of the GAO by enabling quality, timely service to Congress and being a leading practice federal agency. So those are the goals they set out. Those are the trends that they're watching, and that's the influence that they're going to have as they look forward to the next few years. So hopefully that gave you some insight into what's going on in the federal government. So that's a wrap for today's blog. I want to thank you guys for joining me, and I hope to see you on a future blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.